Do you breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors. Welcome into a Monday, Reaction Monday edition of the show. And welcome to December. It is a crazy time in the sports calendar. The regular season for football is over, but the transfer portal, even though it does not technically open for everyone until next Monday, you're already seeing the announcements across college football. You're seeing coaching firings, of course, on this Reaction Monday show, which is live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. We will be taking your questions over the next hour. We'll be discussing primarily East Carolina's regular season finale loss to Navy 34-20. Blake Harrell's first setback as head coach. We'll discuss that and a whole lot more. But again, get your questions in, comments. We've got a lot to discuss, where the program goes from here throughout the coming month. We're, of course, are going to talk about recruiting. Signing day is somehow Wednesday for incoming high school and junior college athletes. We'll get into that as well. So the regular season might be over, but we've got bowl season, we've got the off-season college free agency, NIL talk, all that coming your way throughout the month of December. Philip Pilkington is with us to start the show. We're awaiting Joe Samson. He will join us a little later. Turns out he is in the real world. He has a big boy job, so he's going to be a little late to the show. Philip, hope you had a happy Thanksgiving and a good weekend. Your Panthers almost pulled it out yesterday, but we were talking pre-show. Maybe a best-case scenario situation, but hopefully everything went well over the weekend for you.
Yeah, it was good, and I hope you and your family had a happy Thanksgiving as well. I know with the youngsters, you got to feed them before you feed yourself. So was the turkey at least warm still when you got it, Stephen?
It was. It was warm enough. There's no doubt. We had to sit at the little kiddie table at my grandma's house while most of the big kids sat inside, or adults and big kids. So we were kind of on an island, which was good because otherwise we would have just wrecked everybody else's plate. But it was a good Thanksgiving, man. I appreciate you asking. And I tell you what, man, I guess not a good Thanksgiving for the Pirates in football as they lose post-Thanksgiving, I should say, to Navy 34-20. And I've got a lot of thoughts on this game, but we'll kind of jump right into it. Me and you, we'll get Joe's take a little later. You know, watching it, Philip, ECU, and you look at the stats, it kind of looks like Navy dominated the game. I feel like if ECU scores early in that contest, it's such a different game. ECU, by not scoring on a couple of fourth down plays, not converting those, by missing a field goal, they allowed Navy to play the game on Navy's terms. And I think if East Carolina gets a touchdown on the 4th and goal pass from Hauser to Tyler Savage, if they make that field goal, if it's 10-0, it's a completely different game. Instead, the opposite happened. Navy got to play its game on their terms. ECU did not. I thought ECU pressed as the game went on, and it just kind of unfolded to another unfortunate Navy beating inside Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium in the second half.
No, I think you're spot on because Navy has not been great this year playing from behind. We saw at the Tulane game when they had to push how bad that went. And you go back to the 6 or 7 plays that define a football game. I think that missed throw to Tyler Savage, as well as some of those other offensive mishaps early in the game, are the plays that define this football game because of everything that you went on to say there at the end of your statement. And that's why I think it's spot on. And look, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, there were still opportunities to make plays late. They didn't. But, hey, short week. Navy comes off a bye. Emotional week, a good emotional week, fortunately, with the hiring of Blake Harrell. But it is what it is. And, you're on a 4-game win streak. It's really tough to win 5 games. It's disappointing. I hate it for the seniors who didn't get to win their last game at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. But at the end of the day, there's still one more. Rajay Harris said it after the game. Look, we still have one more game. We have unfinished business, and they're going to have a great opportunity. We don't know what that opportunity is until, mid-afternoon Sunday, but we're going to figure it out. And maybe it'll be against those Tar Heels or those Wolfies, and we'll get to kick the crap out of them. I'd love to have back-to-back wins against State, beat them in the bowl game, and then go to Raleigh to start the season. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, I think ECU fans will be a lot more fired up about a potential, let's say, Military Bowl, Fenway matchup, whatever, against NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. Man, if I could get a dream scenario, look, I love, and I guess we'll go ahead and get into the bowl game. We'll circle back on ECU Navy. And by the way, I don't know. No, I don't know where ECU's heading for bowl season. There's a pecking order. All this, it can play out a lot of different ways. But if I could get a dream scenario, forget State, forget Carolina, give me Virginia Tech in either the Military or Fenway Bowl, because Virginia Tech wants no part of ECU. East Carolina fans, I think, were very disappointed in how that series ended. Of course, you had Hurricane Matthew back in the day. I think it's CBS right now is projecting ECU versus Virginia Tech in the Fenway Bowl.
It is.
I would be I'd be stoked about that matchup. I don't think Virginia Tech fans will like it, but I know I would like it. I'm sure ECU fans will like it, Philip.
And if we won, it would kind of be a big, number one finger to their administration, I think, who, canceled the series based off the hurricane. So I had not even thought about that, but yeah, it's a possibility. They beat Virginia the other day. I think that was their 6th win. That's what got them in, correct? Was their win? Were they 5-6 going into Saturday's game?
They needed Virginia and Virginia Tech were both 5-6.
Okay. So, yeah, this is one I had not even thought about due to their lack of bowl eligibility until about 48 hours ago. So, I think that would be awesome. I'm here for it. Let's do it. And, what's probably going to end up happening is they're going to be like, hey, East Carolina, we're going to give you that in-state matchup you wanted, but you're getting Duke, the team that you just don't really care about. We could give you Carolina. We could give you State. We could give you Virginia Tech. Let's just give you Duke.
Yeah, Duke would not be the most sexy matchup, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. All right, we've got
cool.
some
We
breaking
haven't played
news.
Sorry, go ahead. We haven't played them in like 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. All right, breaking news. ECU wide receiver Chase Soell is entering the transfer portal. We were talking about this, Philip, pre-show. We were like, does ECU have anybody of significance that would go ahead and announce they're going to enter the portal? And one of those guys I mentioned, hey, if he's going to enter the portal, like a Chase Soell would be the type of guy to announce it ahead of time. The portal does not open until Monday officially, but next Monday that is. But Chase Soell announcing on social media that he is entering the portal. Read his statement real quick to Coach Harrell, Coach Roberts, and the ECU staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to fulfill my dreams of playing football and all you have done for me over the past 2 years. To Pirate Nation, thank you for all of your support and making me feel welcomed. This place and you guys will forever have a piece of my heart here. To my teammates, the brotherhood we have is incredible. I have found so many lifelong friends. With that being said, always got to include that. I am entering the transfer portal with 2 years of eligibility remaining. Chase Soell. All right, so there is your breaking news. And look, nothing surprises me this day and age. And Chase Soell entering the portal, a little bit of a surprise just based on the fact that he seemed like a guy who was pretty bought in here. But again, money talks, and I'm sure he's a guy from Texas. I'm sure somebody has called and is offering them a chance to enter the portal and get some money. And it's disappointing. Makes the need to retain Yannick Smith, who started the final 2 games of the season and put up some very impressive performances, all the more greater. I think if you can retain Yannick, I don't think this is as big of a loss as it seems on paper, but certainly you're losing a guy who has to rank near the top of the team in receiving yards each of the past 2 seasons if you look at combined maybe leads the Pirates over that 2-year span. So Chase Soell, really solid receiver, good receiver, and I wish him the best, but certainly some surprising news here on this Monday in some regards. And then again, it's not, Phil. This is college football now.
It is college football. And here's the thing. When you're a group of 5 school, and I know people hate to hear it, but you're going to become a farm system for the Power 5. And I would rather a guy come here, expect to be good, leave, go to a Power 5, and they go, wow, East Carolina was a big stepping stone for him, than some kid come here, not pan out, and then not get playing time and transfer to Kennesaw State. So it's unfortunate. It stinks. Hate the system. Don't hate the player. That's the player's going to do what the player's going to do based off what the system lets them do. And we can sit here and we could do a week long of shows as to how they need to fix college football. But at the end of the day, look, Chase was probably our most physical receiver. He catch the ball in windows. You like having him. Wish he could have stayed. Like you said, if we can keep Yannick, that'd be big. If we lose them both, that stinks. But I'm sure there's some kid who's balling out at Sam Houston State or somewhere else that we could offer more money to. So just like people are going to poach from us, there are lower levels of college football that we can go poach from. So, hey, there's an open receiver spot. If anybody out there is balling out at the FCS level or at in Conference USA, which should be an FCS conference, East Carolina's got an opening.
Chase Soell, by the way, ECU just offered his brother Hunter Soell. I don't know if that offer will still stand going forward. Soell has graded out pretty positively the last 2 years per Pro Football Focus, around PFF grades of 70.3 and 22 is 70.6 and 24. Certainly a very, I would say, above average receiver. I don't think he's the number one, but I think he's done enough to certainly get some NIL money. He has dropped 13 passes the last 2 seasons, which is a pretty significant number, according to Pro Football Focus. But again, good receiver, good guy. Wish him the best. This is college football now. I'm not going to hate any player for leaving or trying to go to greener pastures. I will point out, though, I put up a graphic. Antoine Jackson, Phillip, was a very well-known Pirate who entered the portal last year after a standout freshman season at East Carolina, went to UCF, went back to his home state of Florida, ended up playing less, performing worse. He had 319 snaps as a true freshman at ECU with a 66.3 PFF grade. At UCF, 213 snaps with a 54.8 PFF grade. So the grass is not always greener, but maybe the money is, Phillip. I don't know.
I guess so, but hey, if you stay at East Carolina, some of these guys, maybe the money would be greener when you get to the NFL because you actually have scouts looking at you when you get in the game. But hey, it is what it is. Hindsight's 20/20, right? You want to retain guys, and if they leave on a good note. You wish them the best, but maybe sometimes when it does happen, it's kind of like, well, you should have stayed. So, man, like I said, it's the state of college football. I've got my thoughts, and I could ramble, and if I did, you wouldn't say anything the rest of the show, and we wouldn't get any commercial breaks in because that's just it is what it is.
It is what it is. Again, ECU, they will lose Winston Wright to graduation after the bowl game. Chase had not played in the last 2 games, so the Pirates at least got an extended look at Yannick Smith. And if you can retain Yannick, that would be a big deal because I think you have Anthony Smith set to return with 1 year of eligibility remaining. If you have Yannick and Anthony Smith, I think those are your 2 starting outside receivers anyways. But again, who knows? And like you said, there's some other receiver out there, just like Chase Soell 2 years ago. Phillip, he didn't play at Colorado. ECU got him from the portal. He became a good player here. I'm kind of over the point of freaking out about this stuff. I know that it's nice to have some continuity and some players that we know, but there's always going to be the next guy. And ECU, from my understanding, with the collective, the money they are raising right now, I'm kind of surprised Chase didn't wait to see, hey, what type of deal he could get going forward, because I think you're going to have a higher number than last year as far as NIL collective, the money, and maybe he could have got a bigger payday here in Greenville. So I think ECU, long story short, they'll be able to replace him. It's just a matter of, what type of productivity do they get from the guy coming in.
True. And, one of the guys that we haven't mentioned yet on this that I would expect to stay that we haven't had since the first half of the Army game is Brock Spalding. And, look, Brock can play the X. He can play the Y. He can play the Z. So they really do like him, even though he's more of a Y size. He's probably not quite the receiver that Chase Soell is, but he will be back. And I think as long as we have Coach Roberts and Coach JDB, they're okay with wide receiver by committee. You want to have a go-to guy. You actually want to have a go-to 2 guys. But at the end of the day, they're good playing 6-8 guys. And if you can keep Yannick Smith and Anthony Smith, and you can get Brock Spalding and another bunch of guys like him at that level, you don't have to directly replace Chase Soell, in my opinion.
All right, so there's your news. Again, Chase Soell, ECU redshirt sophomore receiver. The last 2 seasons has announced he will enter the portal. He had 34 receptions for 678 yards, 3 scores this season. That was actually 13 less catches than a season ago, but still a good season for Chase. We'll see what happens with him going forward. Who knows? Mike Houston's policy used to be once guys announced they were into the portal, they wouldn't come back. Maybe East Carolina under Blake Harrell will still recruit guys that have announced they were into the portal. I don't know. That's something we'll have to figure out over time. But let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll dive more into ECU Navy. We'll talk more about the offseason ahead and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Reaction Monday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you farm to fork beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to fork beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast, Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
There be pirates. Back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo. How good is this on 94.3 The Game?
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Monday, December 2nd edition of the show. Again, Philip Pilkington with us. We're scheduled to be joined by Joe Samson here later in the show. Breaking news during our first segment, if you're just tuning in, Chase Soell, ECU starting receiver, has announced he will enter the transfer portal. So we reacted to that news in segment 1. We'll react to any other news going forward as well as we come along. Philip Pilkington producing today's show. We're talking ECU Navy. We'll get more into how the roster looks going forward, all that throughout the month of December, throughout this week, I'm sure, starting there. And Philip, we were talking in segment 1 before we were so rudely interrupted by a transfer portal announcement about the Navy game, and I just wanted to say there was a big, I don't want to say freak out, but there was a lot of people that were stepping up on the "I told you so" platform after East Carolina lost to Navy, basically saying, "I told you ECU shouldn't have hired Blake Harrell. We rushed this decision. Blah 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 blah." Well, folks, the hire has been made, and I just have a problem with people, especially East Carolina fans. They would rather see ECU lose and be right rather than get behind a coach and let him actually have a chance. Look, Blake Harrell, yeah, he worked for Mike Houston the last 5 years at ECU. That doesn't mean he is Mike Houston. He's going to do things a different way. Let's give the guy a chance. He's still 4-1 as head coach under extremely difficult circumstances. And I just have a problem with people who would rather be right as ECU fans than to get behind this coach and give him an actual chance. So, I don't know. To me, like, the game itself did not change how I feel about Blake Harrell going forward. Does that guarantee it's going to be a success this tenure? No, but if ECU fans can't come together and actually get behind this and, support Team Boneyard, support Coach Harrell, then I think it's going to be a much tougher task going forward. So I just had to get on my soapbox about that.
Well, first off, Stephen, you're right, and that's not ECU fans. That's the world in 2024. People just like to be right more so than they like what is good. Kind of what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right. It's almost like a book written a lot of years ago predicted that, but hey, we won't get into that. When it comes down to Blake Harrell, though, look, no coach. I mean, if we hired Nick Saban out of retirement, that is not guarantee anything. Nothing guarantees success. And now, with this being said, I'm not saying because Blake Harrell lost this game, he's not going to be successful. But at the end of the day, he had a job interview. His job interview was 5 weeks long that had 4 football games in which he won all 4 of them. He got a group of over 100 young men to rally around and buy into him, and he got all the high-up donors' support in donating to Team Boneyard. Okay, that is what coaching college football is. Winning games, getting the players to buy in, and getting donations. That's what it is. Blake Harrell is a leader of men. He is a good football coach. He is a father figure, and you could have went out there and probably found somebody else that met that description, but nothing guarantees success, and one loss does not define Blake Harrell as a human being. It does not define him as a head coach. It does not define the 2024 East Carolina Pirates as a team that they lost one freaking game to Navy, who we always lose to. Navy has always won in Dowdy Ficklin Stadium. They've never lost.
Yes, they are now 6-0. And I'm not saying ECU should not expect to beat Navy at home, but again, Blake Harrell just did what every other coach in ECU history has done against Navy inside Dowdy Ficklin. So I don't know. It just it grinds my gears, Philip, that people are just, even if you're against the hire, I don't know how you don't get behind Blake Harrell and try and support him and this team. He has not even had his chance to put his own stamp on the program. Now, what does that mean as far as how he's going to put together his staff? Certainly, he will keep a lot more players and a lot more coaches and support staff than if ECU would have hired an outside coach. But he is still going to do things different ways. I mean, he ran practice, Philip, entirely different. He ran meetings entirely different. So all these people saying that it's just Mike Houston 2.0, I think couldn't be further from the truth. And let's give Blake Harrell a chance. Again, continue to support Team Boneyard. Team Boneyard and Blake Harrell, ECU coaching staff meeting today. Those numbers have a huge piece on East Carolina's future as a program as far as retaining talent, acquiring talent. So, again, I just hope ECU fans, no matter whether it was a new coach, Blake Harrell, et cetera, can all get together as one, get behind somebody. Certainly a win in the bowl game will help that, but either way, you're not going to win every game was the point we were trying to make. So, all right, ECU Navy. And, again, the other thing about Navy, and I know a lot of people were against – or I shouldn't say a lot. Some people were against the hire before Navy. To me, like these triple option games, and I get what the series has been, as you can probably hear my dogs barking in the background. But this game in itself is just a single entity, and triple option games are weird, Philip. So to value a coach and everything on one game, or to try and make some grand statement on one triple option game, I think is not the right way to go about it.
No, it's not. And look, and I'm not trying to, bag on the players, but there was some times that Blake Harrell made the right call or John David Baker made the right call and we didn't execute. Like, look, you got to sometimes it is about the Jimmies and the Joes, right? And that was not the best game that the young men in that locker room played all year. It was far from the worst game they had played all year, but it wasn't the best either. And kind of just like you said, look, you don't have to agree with the hire. You don't have to agree with everything that Steven and I go on here and say. Obviously, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but still get behind them. Like, look, there's been hires from my teams in the past that I don't agree with, but I still wish the player the best. And there were quarterback signings my teams have made that I didn't like. Still wish them the best. I mean, look, like you said, it's one game. it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. We haven't ever beat Navy at home, and I know we should expect better. We shouldn't expect the status quo. But again, that doesn't define him because he lost one game to Navy. And like Coach Logan always says, those teams are so odd games when you play those teams, and sometimes just their ability to run the triple option is solely what wins them football games. I don't think it's solely what won them this football game, but also I don't think Blake Harrell is solely the reason the Pirates lost this football game.
All right, some comments here. David says, I am behind the Blake Harrell hire. The day of his press conference, I rejoined the Pirate Club and made an NIL donation. Go Pirates. Tony says, oh, Steven, I got that Hoist the Colors 75% off VIP deal a few minutes ago. Glad I'm on board. By the way, I do want to mention that. Thanks, Tony, for mentioning that. So Cyber Monday, special deal, Hoist the Colors online right now. 75% off. That's less than $30 for an annual subscription and less than $3 a month. Of course, it is all billed as one. But certainly highly encourage you guys to jump on that. If you're a new subscriber, if you're a monthly subscriber, you can upgrade to that. If you're a new subscriber, you can hop it on that price. If you're a full-time, long-standing subscriber, A, can't thank you enough. We would not be able to have a site without you. But B, you also get a free subscription to Paramount Plus. That is only available to full-paying long-term members. So that is a free value that we give to our long-term customers as well. If you have any questions about how to activate that, let me know. Again, hoistthecolors.net. Of course, we've got the radio component here. We go much deeper on the internet side as far as diving into recruiting, diving into behind the scenes, potential coaching changes, transfer portal stuff. We'll do all of that on hoistthecolors.net throughout the month of December. And again, this gets you coverage for 365 days. So it'll actually carry you through next football season. All right, more comments here. Matt Linker says, now we just need to keep Yannick Smith, Caden Hauser, and Jamarly Riddle. Certainly those are some key guys that East Carolina needs to retain, if at all possible. All right, I think we have Joseph Samson. Joe is in the house. He's got a can't-lose parlay hat. He also has a Pantene Bob's pullover. So he is all decked out. Your thoughts? Well, first off, we'll start with the Chase Soell news. Joe, I don't know if you saw as you were busy. He has entered the transfer portal, or will enter. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the first thing is I think everybody's had conversations about Yannick Smith being the guy, this guy being the guy, Anthony Smith, he has another year now. Where did Chase Soell fit into that? And especially with how things have kind of progressed, he's no longer become the number one option. I think conversations like that, there's so many coaches that are going to get new opportunities. Gus Malzahn obviously taking the OC job now at Florida State after being let go by UCF. Those kinds of things all play into these kinds of moves. And I think especially with the ever-changing landscape of college football, somebody called him. Somebody said, hey, I'll give you however much money to come somewhere else. And I can't tell you anything different, but I would have done the same thing if I had that kind of talent. So I'm not shocked by it. I'm shocked at the timing of it, but considering when the portal opens and the early signing window coming for high school, I can't say I am blindsided by it, just a little earlier than I anticipated. But I was not surprised one of the offensive players at the portal.
You know, there's no guarantee, Joe, that East Carolina will retain Yannick Smith. And I'm not just saying this because Chase Soell entered the portal. I would have said this regardless. ECU, if I had to pick one to pay, I would pay Yannick Smith more. He is, to me, he has the chance to be a true number one. And this is no disrespect to Chase Soell. Like, Chase is a very good college receiver. He will have plenty of big-time offers. Anybody who thinks that because he dropped a few passes, I think, are just wrong. You get a proven receiver. So for me, like, I would pay Yannick, though. He's bigger. He's more physical. He projects as an NFL receiver. And I don't know if ECU will be able to retain Yannick. I'm just saying, Joe, if you can do it, would you pay Chase or Yannick more? To me, Yannick's your number one paid receiver at this point.
I think Yannick's got to be your guy going forward. I mean, he's youngest, and especially in today's landscape, you have to retain talent like that. And yes, everybody's going to make a big deal about the tween step back hezzy throwback after the touchdown late in the game because he's undisciplined or this, that, and the other. No, that's fight. That's fire. That's somebody who was not happy with how things played out with the end of the game, and especially after they tried to talk when Rajay went down, who is your vocal leader on the offense. I have no problem with it. I think he's got to be priority number 2 to maintain, and I think the first has to be Caden Hauser. But as far as the offensive goes, I think it's those two or bust if you're trying to keep people from going into the portal.
All right, Joe, your thoughts on East Carolina's loss to Navy. Philip and I have talked about it. 34-20 setback, first Blake Harrell loss as head coach. Your thoughts?
You know, it's not really the first loss as a head coach. And I know everybody tries to say those things. So much emotion goes into decisions like this and everything else. And, one I want to talk to is everybody says, well, John Gilbert should have waited until after this game. It was a distraction. So the public would have been happier if John Gilbert would have announced after the Navy loss they were going forward with Blake Harrell. Yeah, okay. It's two sides of every coin. Also, if Blake Harrell's offense, and I call it his offense now because he's the head coach, his offense gets that first down and then scores a touchdown early on in the game, you're looking at a tie ball game going into overtime once again against a very good Navy football team that will play in a very good bowl game, and it's going to play who should be, if Boise State loses out, the Group of 5 representative in the playoff in Army, really close here in about 2 weeks. It's going to be a dogfight on both sides. So, one, we used to always have a coach who said, when you play a service academy, it's Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Daffron misses a field goal my senior year. The year before that, Tyler Snead has to go catch a 50-50 ball. You fumble here, you fumble there. This guy jumps off sides. This gets called back. That's playing a service academy. That's how it goes. It's never going to be perfect. So, I don't think Blake Harrell coached a bad game by any means. I don't think John David Baker called a bad game by any means. I don't think anything outside of the fact that Navy just scored one more touchdown than we did is what determined this game.
All right, that is the voice of Joe Samson. I tell you what, let's get another break in. We'll come back. We'll dive more into the portal talk. We got a lot of comments on that. We'll get into, want to talk about Chase leaving. We can compare that, as I said, to Antoine Jackson earlier. Also, we had a question about Shane Calhoun, what he's done at A&M. We'll get into that. He's Joe's boy. We'll discuss that more. Hoist the Colors on a Reaction Monday right after this.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in color. and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo.
Drink up for me, Aussies, yo-ho.
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on a Monday, December 2nd, Reaction Monday. Philip Pilkington is producing. Joe Samson is alongside as well. I am currently typing up that Chase Soell has entered the transfer portal article, so a lot of multitasking going on.
I wish you could have seen during the break what I just saw. All I'm going to say is Pancake is in Joe's room, and it was very entertaining for 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. No, Pancake, I mean, he's just lurking in the shadows. It's like the Phantom of the Opera. He might just throw me out of this chair at some point.
He did it to me on Patrick's show one day.
I know. So he's coming for everything.
I don't know if I can deal with that much Steelers and Russell Wilson talk.
While you're typing up that article, are you typing up that Tegan Wilk is coming home? He's also entered the portal, the former Pirate.
That's what everybody keeps saying, but I tell you what, ECU has some pretty good young safeties now, so he's going to have to come earn his spot back. But we'll see. Who knows if those safeties are even going to be back anymore, Joe? Who knows anything about college
Who knows
sports?
anything? I know one thing. Blake Harrell's the head coach.
That is true.
That's all we know. That's all we know.
Blake Harrell is the head coach. All right. Charles Askew wants to know, please explain to me why we can't move the ball, specifically passing the ball, against Navy. All right, Charles, a lot of layers to that. ECU actually did move the ball early, and then they failed to score. And then I think they started pressing, personally. Yeah. Navy also runs probably the most complex defense in the American outside of ECU. You combine those factors, you get behind, you start pressing, it's hard to move the ball. And again, ECU allowed Navy to play the game on its terms by not scoring early. So I'll let both of you guys weigh on this. Joe, we'll start with you. Why does ECU struggle to move the ball on the midshipmen?
You know, everybody always points fingers and tries to say something. I remember 2022, first drive of the game, they came out to cover 3 a weak buzz look. And they had 3 guys mugged up over trips to the boundary, and they brought the outside corner and hit Holtnailer so hard in the back of his head that the ball went straight up in the air. Noah Henderson came down with it, and we went 3 and out. And that was really just that's about right. Navy runs some crazy stuff. I remember my freshman year, I was on the scout team. I'm playing safety. Riddle me that. And I was mugged up over the center in a true zero technique, standing up, and then dropped all the way back to the deep third because that was a coverage they had ran at the time. And that was under a different coach. But the defense always remains to be some kind of crazy thing. Same with the offense. The way you need to look at it is when you have lesser athletes, and I'm not saying ECU does, but when you have lesser athletes like you do at the Service Academy, you got to do more crazy stuff in order to try and offset that kind of talent differential. Comes from the wing tee, the nasty set, all that crazy stuff they do. Same goes for the defense. You can hide a really bad coverage corner because you've got a safety blitzing on another play or bringing another guy from a backside that wasn't accounted for, which creates a timing issue for the quarterbacks. Caden Hauser's only experience is really Army. Army doesn't do a ton of the stuff that Navy has done. Navy is as close to ECU's defense as you're going to get, which is why it always feels like it's a chess match on the other side. And that's why the games always wind up being so similar as far as offense versus defense in the point scoring differentials, and then especially in the big plays.
And something else I want to add before we flip to Philip is like, you only get so many opportunities to make plays against this defense, and ECU did not make there were plays to be made, and ECU dropped passes, missed throws, or didn't finish drives, Philip, and ultimately that was the difference.
Yeah, it was. So, you mentioned the not making plays. When you don't make plays in a game where you do have limited possessions, now the first half wasn't that way this week, but when you don't make plays, you kind of get down on yourself. And the only way to do it is to get back and make plays. Well, when you have less opportunities and you're on the sidelines longer because there's less time to get in rhythm, that makes it a little harder. But going back to what Joe said, let's talk about, and I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but they have had a bye before us for the last 5 weeks on top of everything Joe just said. I remember talking to Holton after that 2022 game and talking to Donnie, and they were like, look, they threw stuff at us that we had never even remotely seen on film. And when they have that bye week and you have guys with the football IQ of the Navy team, look, man, these kids they're pulling, these aren't the kind of kids where it's like, oh, can we forge some test scores to get them into school? No. These kids are extremely intelligent. So when a coach throws a lot of new things at them, it is easily retained. They can go over there on a whiteboard and install while their offense is on the field and come up with something brand new, and the players go out there and execute it. You're dealing with high IQ people, high IQ football players, and a high IQ coaching staff that seem to always have a bye the week before they play you, and you only get 2 possessions a quarter, and so, that's a recipe for disaster.
Here's the good news, guys. No ECU Navy next year on the schedule, so Navy will not get a bye before ECU. They'll just get the bye of a whole season before they meet again in 2026.
Yeah, literally.
All right.
Do they have Army again?
ECU does play Army, I believe,
at home.
in Greenville.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, ECU. I would try to run. I think they go to UTSA, they go to Tulane, and they get Memphis back on the schedule at home. They get Army, Temple, and FAU, I believe. I can't remember the other road conference game. Either way, Giovanni says, could we go out and try to grab Concepcion from the Raleigh Pups? He already entered the portal. There is 0 shot KC Concepcion is coming to
Well,
Greenville.
real quick, it's FAU's on the road. Charlotte is at home.
There you go.
FAU came here this week. So that's the
That is
Right,
correct.
sorry, go ahead.
So that means I get to go back to Boca. Let's go. Brendan says, I think with a few right moves, we can compete every year in this conference for a championship. The fact we had an underwhelming season and still ended up 5th in the standings is encouraging. I agree, Brendan, to an extent, but you have to remember, too, ECU did not play Tulane. ECU did not play Memphis. ECU did not play USF. Those are 3 pretty significant teams. Am I missing anybody else that was good that ECU missed out on? I don't think so. But those 3 teams.
Echelon, yeah.
Those 3 teams, from my understanding, are the 3 teams at the top of the league in NIL. So you missed out on playing the teams that are probably going to be the best, most likely year in and year out for as far as talent. And so I think the schedule was favorable. I think ECU still has a long way to go. They got to get bigger, faster, stronger. I still don't see enough. Like if you watch Memphis and Tulane play and you watch ECU play, there is a pretty big difference in size and speed. And I think ECU's got to continue to upgrade the talent there. But certainly encouraging. I also want to remind people, too, we're still – and, again, a lot of this comes down to how much you can hold together. But you had a first-year coordinator, guys, and a redshirt sophomore quarterback in his first year in the system. Like 5 years ago, people would be stoked about the success ECU had this year because of what the future could entail.
Yeah.
You equate it back to Shane Carden and Lincoln's offense as a sophomore quarterback. There were ups and downs, and you build every year. So I think, Joe, like the foundation is there. I guess the foundation, it just scares people with the unknown in college football now. But, like, on paper, I think we know Blake Harrell can dial up a defense. We know John David Baker now has an offensive system he likes or is kind of grown into as a play caller. And now you've got the quarterback in place, and it's just a matter of how does it all look going forward.
Yeah, 10 years ago, this is a conversation where you're talking about a future first-rounder, and everybody's like, wow, Caden Hauser's going to bring ECU to prominence for the next 3 years. They've just gotten terrifying. Well, it's not that way anymore, and you just saw Concepcion hits the portal for NC State, who was in talks of being a preseason playoff favorite, and obviously McCall has to medically retire. It's his own thing. Noah Rogers transfers in from Ohio State to be closer to home. It's just been a mess. And nobody's talking about that the same way they're talking about ECU and retaining talent and vice versa. So it's just its own thing. Mac Brown also retiring is going to have a lot of effects on things going forward. Does UNC bring in some kind of high-powered guy? Does a Caden Hauser make a jump to a Power 5? I love the Pirates to death. I love being an ECU Pirate. We aren't on the same level as the ACC as far as eyes, TV deals, conversations. He'd play Clemson in Death Valley. He'd get to play FSU at FSU. He'd play Syracuse at Syracuse. All these things where it has different eyes on it. And our conversations are always, are they playing Memphis? Are they playing USF? Are they playing Tulane? it's just a different conversation. It's a different breath. You saw SMU make a jump now to the ACC in the first year, and they're doing phenomenally well also, but it's different eyes. Something that, might I add, 25 years ago, they got the death penalty for and paying players. Now we're celebrating and they're going to be in the playoff, but that's a whole nother discussion. So I think it's the fear of everybody else not knowing what outside of ECU looks like before we can even determine who stays at ECU. There's going to be a ton of coaches in the next week who lose their jobs, and then a ton of coaches who take jobs and take players. By the end of December, we will know so much about the college football landscape and also nothing at all.
Joe, is it worth it, though? I mean, these guys like Shane Calhoun, I know y'all are boys, and I'm sure he's had a great experience at A&M. You know, snap count way down, PFF grade way down, 2 catches all year. Like, was it worth it for him to leave ECU and go to Texas A&M? I mean, I guess it depends on perspective.
Right. It's a conversation, but also Casey Kelly came in. If Casey Kelly doesn't get hurt, he's the guy the whole season. And when Casey Kelly's on the field, he gets the ball. So was Shane going to get the same amount of target share? Was Tyler Savage going to get more target share? We don't know, and that's why these guys leave. I mean, I'm not just saying it because it's Shane and I have the close relationship. That's really the breakdown is new coach comes in, new offense. All you hear is tempo, tempo, tempo. Do they throw to the tight ends? And until probably about week 4, we really didn't see much of a tight end impact.
But it, like, you know, the grass is always greener conversation. Like, I don't know. Like, wouldn't he have been almost better off going to, like, a mid-tier P5 school or whatever they're called now? I don't know, to get more reps. But I'm sure it's been, look, he probably got paid or whatever, and it's been cool to play in some of those games. But I don't know. I just think sometimes guys get caught up a little too much in the lights.
Yeah, that's fair. But also, the thing is every other coach in America is lying to you and telling you you're going to start and be the guy. So when you get in the portal, Nishad Strother this year is starting for Oregon. Last year, I think he played maybe a combined 50 snaps in the whole season. So last year, like, his grass always greener. He hasn't played much. He's not in a good spot. Now Nishad's on the number 1 team in the nation looking at a college football playoff berth, and he's starting in consecutive games for them. He's on the conversation award winners. Trent Holler moves to Marshall, transfers from Marshall to Memphis. Grass isn't always greener. He's in the Remington Award finalist. That's a former Pirate as well. Jason Schufer doing phenomenally well for Marshall. It's always the conversation. Who is where you need to be? Then you look at the other side. The Xavier McIvers of the world, unfortunately the Mason Garcias of the world, the Theo Lockleys, all those guys who have now transferred away to smaller programs in air quotes, and their target share or their rep count is still down. So it truly is a crapshoot, and it matters on coaches liking you, personal investment, and player investment, because the scholarship guys that always have those big price tags get the first reps anyway.
College football, a giant crapshoot. That's basically what it all is.
It is.
From
Especially
coaching
with the
hires
playoff this year.
to the portal, to the playoff, to the bowl system. Where's ECU going? I don't know. It's a crapshoot. Let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. I know we got some questions about ECU's potential bowl destination. Also want to read some more comments. We'll do that with Philip and Joe and myself. This is Hoist the Colors on a Reaction Monday.
This holiday season, get the gift you really want at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Drive a new Corolla, just $229 a month, or a new Tacoma, only $329 a month during the holiday trade-up at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hey, on the mountain we've got a saying. Get off your... Show off.
Mountain
Dew. Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab Grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Unwrap a new Toyota for the holidays at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Get a new Camry, $269 a month, or a new RAV4, $329 a month. Trade up and save at Greenville Toyota.
Every ECU fan's one stop for all things ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on a Monday, December 2nd edition of the show. Final segment here. Got about 5 minutes left. Joe Samson is alongside. Philip Pilkington alongside as well. He's producing. We'll try to run through some of these questions, comments. Brennan, who said earlier, was talking about ECU competing for a conference championship. He wants to know, do we think ECU has a lot of potential upside in comparison to teams like Memphis, Tulane in terms of getting bigger, faster, and stronger in today's NIL format? You know, here's the thing. I don't know. You know, the toughest thing about this is Memphis, Tulane, a lot of these teams in the American have great access to talent because of their geographical location. You have to factor that in. They have more NIL money as well. Like, personally, I think ECU will always be fighting a little bit of an uphill battle. Now, the collective can make up some of that difference, but you're always going to have to be able to recruit and identify talent at ECU, and you're going to have to be able to develop talent. You know, somebody mentioned earlier in the chat, guys, about Omar Rogers from Elon. Was a great pick from the portal, really went under-recruited despite being an all-CAA guy. You're going to have to search and work for talent. It's not going to be handed to you at ECU, Joe. I do think ECU's got some of the right coaches in place. But that's just always going to be the way it's at ECU. You're never going to be the most talented team more times than not in the league.
We cannot hear you, Joe.
Joe, you are.
See, Memphis is trying to silence me because they know I'm going to talk about the fact FedEx is just a blank check for their pockets for their NIL BS. But the last 8 players probably for ECU, as far as impact guys, were all big transfers that went undervalued. Julius Wood was a JUCO guy through and through. They went and got him. They basically developed him. DJ Ford transfers from UNC in the 2020 season. He was a huge guy. Chris Willis, App State. He wasn't necessarily a huge impact guy as far as that goes, but a culture guy who changed a lot of things. Ryan Jones is a linebacker who transitions to tight end because he played receiver in high school. He's an unheralded guy. Isaiah Winstead was at Toledo after he went to Norfolk State. That's an unheralded guy. Jalen Johnson from Georgia. He's a walk-on from Georgia who goes on to play slot receiver for ECU. There's always conversations. Caton Hauser, everything that happens. Yes, he's an Elite 11 finalist in high school. Transfers from Michigan State, not really on the radar as far as a big-time transfer. This year, he will have a much bigger eye on him if he does decide to enter the portal, and I pray he does not. But that's how it goes. Your ECU, you got to be almost the island of misfit toys. And I think Blake Harrell is a perfect amalgamation of that because he's not one of those guys that's had anything handed to him. He knows you got to be gritty. You got to do things a different way. You got to be tougher. You got to be more physical. You got to do things that you can't rely on finesse. You're not the greatest show on turf, and I think he knows that.
Philip, your thoughts here?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned the recruiting hotbeds, right? We have teams in our conference that are in Texas, that are in Florida, or are in neighboring states to Texas. When you look at teams in Oklahoma and Louisiana, so there's that. So you're just not going to have the first pick of the crop. And then, yeah, your NIL, look, we've got a great fan base. Not everybody donates. We wish everybody would. But you do have a better fan base than a lot of the teams in your conference. But you're getting that blank check at Memphis. And then some of these other places, they're in oil money. So maybe they don't have as much
North
NIL.
Texas.
Yeah, but they've got one or two that set them apart ahead of us. So at the end of the day, yeah, Joe was right. You do, Island of Misfit Toys.
Island of Memphis Toys.
Yeah, Memphis Toys.
Memphis Toys,
yeah,
basically.
Who knows?
Welcome to the AAC.
Do you need to be that? Not maybe quite. You hope it's not quite that bad, but maybe you're the ones with just an eyeballs hanging out, even though it's not fully gone on the teddy bear.
Right.
I think that's what
Exactly.
you got to be.
Grit.
Great way to put it. A quick 1 minute bowl discussion. Joe, where do you hope the Pirates end up, if you could pick?
Where do I hope they wind up, or where do I think? I hope they wind
Both.
up somewhere warm and nice and enjoyable for everybody, because it sucks being in Birmingham, Alabama on Christmas Eve and all that's open is a Whataburger. But for the sake of it, probably Frisco, maybe Independence. There's a lot of really good teams that have a chance to kind of shake things out, and I think the Scooter Coffee Bowl makes a lot of sense for the Pirates.
Wait, Waffle House was closed?
Yes.
Wow.
Do you know how bad it is for a Waffle House to be closed in Birmingham, Alabama on Christmas Eve?
That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah,
but I had great company.
Please don't send us to Birmingham again. And look, Frisco, Texas, I don't want to go there either. Send me to Florida or to
Boca,
DC. And
Orlando.
Yep.
Any of those.
I'll take
Fenway
Fenway
Park.
just because of the environment, even
Fenway
though
would be
it'll
cool.
be cold as heck.
Yeah, you have
All
fun
right,
up there. I'll send you a jacket.
We are out of time, Joe. Appreciate you. Thanks for hopping
Thanks,
on
guys.
after your busy call. Philip Pilkington, thanks to you as well. We'll see you tomorrow in studio. We're scheduled to have Macy O'Donnell join us for a postseason wrap-up of the regular season. We'll do that. We'll talk more transfer portal, I'm sure, as well as other big news throughout the college football world. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon.
This has been Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all